I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled to.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
Hi, this is for the person on Quora who asked what the benefit of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is in Nichiren Buddhism. So I don't know, I got a notification saying you requested the answer from me. My name is M. Labora Perry, and I write about Lotus Sutra Buddhism. I've been practicing Nichiren Buddhism going on 39 years. It'll be 39 years in a couple of months. And so Quora pushes out notifications saying you've been requested, because I think you can just check off different people to request. So you may not have specifically, known about my writing or anything. But I can tell you from my experience, so I am a Nichiren Buddhist. As you know, that means I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I do have one thought that's different than what Nichiren taught. And you can think it's important or not important, but Nichiren believed that you must chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, the title of the Lotus Sutra, in order to attain enlightenment during our age, the latter day of the law. I do not agree with him about that point. Otherwise, I agree with what he says about the Lotus Sutra. And also, chanting is very beneficial to me personally. I don't believe you have to chant, because I have evidence that that's not true, that you can attain enlightenment without chanting. I have evidence in my own life. And also, the Buddha taught that everything is one. There's no separation between anything. So if there was a man who attained enlightenment without chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, then we all can do it. The other thing that the Buddha taught in the Lotus Sutra is that there is no ebb and flow of birth and death. So the idea of a past life or something happening in the past is delusion. So the fact that this man who existed in the past, the way we call the past, attained enlightenment, again, means that we all can. So just from a logical point of view, if you believe that life is eternal, no beginning and end, and if you believe that everything is one, then again, if one person can attain enlightenment without chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we all can. So that's the theoretical reason why I don't agree with Nichiren on that point. And the more personal reason is because of my own experience with the Lotus Sutra, which I had a dream of the Lotus Sutra before I ever heard of it. I'm talking loud in case you can't hear me over the wind and the trees. But anyway, to answer your question, I decided to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo after taking off some time from doing it, after having done it for a couple of decades, and deciding, hey, what'll happen if I don't chant? Will I still be able to bring forth benefit the way I do when I do chant? And that experience proved to me, that experiment turned out to prove that I could. So when I started chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo again, I did it because I wanted to, not because of the fear of what would happen if I didn't, which is what I had before I did that experiment. So anyway, again, to finally answer your question, chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo enables me to immediately awaken to my unlimited power as a Buddha, and immediately to see that whatever benefit or solution I'm looking for is absolutely within my life to bring forth. Because I can forget that. Because life happens and stuff happens that I really don't want to happen, and I can get cloudy-minded, thinking, oh, this is an impossible situation. But when I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, I remember that there's no problem I can't solve. So I will say, not chanting alone doesn't help me remember that, although it can, but I've studied Buddhism a lot. So even if I don't just naturally feel that way, because I've read so much of Nichiren's writings and so much of the Lotus Sutra, and most importantly, because I have all this experience of having changed poison into medicine, which is a phrase from, I don't know if it was Tentai or one of the other scholars of the Lotus Sutra, then I know I'll break through, because I always do. It may not happen immediately, but it always happens. And so chanting, again, helps me remember that, but I also would encourage you to support your chanting through studying it. First of all, the Lotus Sutra, and then to supplement that study with Nichiren's writings, which help explain the Lotus Sutra. But if you're just going to do one of those, I suggest you read the Lotus Sutra. That's not only my suggestion, that's the Buddha's suggestion in the Lotus Sutra. He repeatedly talked about the benefit of just reading the Lotus Sutra or just hearing it for a moment. And Nichiren also stressed reading the Lotus Sutra. So it's not just my idea. That should be your primary practice if you want to practice Nichiren Buddhism. Nichiren Buddhism is the Buddhism of the Lotus Sutra. And yeah, I'll say that. Nichiren Buddhism is the Buddhism of the Lotus Sutra. And the Lotus Sutra, according to the Buddha, was his highest teaching, because unlike his other sutras, it taught, in the Lotus Sutra, he taught that you yourself are a Buddha. So that's where I stop. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. I'm posting this to my YouTube Lotus Sutra Buddhism page so that I can post it on Quora. And also, FYI, I write about Lotus Sutra Buddhism on Substack, but I mostly talk about it on Facebook. So, and then I end up publishing whatever I post there on Substack. So, but if you want to read my Substack stuff, it's lotussutrabuddhism.substack.com. And I'll put that in the text here in case you can't hear over the lawnmower. Okay, bye. And the reason that we can attain enlightenment in the first place, again, it comes to oneness. Enlightenment is life itself. That's what the Buddha taught in the second chapter of the Lotus Sutra. He called it the true aspect of all phenomena. That is enlightenment or Buddhahood. So enlightenment naturally exists in our lives. I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo to awaken to that. Again, to awaken to the fact that I'm a Buddha. And that is the purpose of Buddhist practice. The ultimate purpose of Buddhist practice, according to what the Buddha taught in the Lotus Sutra, is enlightenment. Not nirvana, which is what he taught prior to teaching the Lotus Sutra. He taught for 40 years that, certain ones of his followers sought to attain in nirvana, which is to extinguish our desire. When he taught the Lotus Sutra, he taught that enlightenment is life, including our desires. And so it's already in us. So therefore, what was my point? Yes, we can all attain enlightenment because it's who we are. Buddha literally translates as the awakened. Again, so the purpose of Buddhist practice is to awaken. That's what enlightenment is. It's a state of being awake. I created a study guide based on Nichiren's writings of on the Lotus Sutra. So the study guide presents the writings of his where he talked about specific chapters of the Lotus Sutra and what he said about those chapters. So you can get the study guide at bit.ly/Lotus-Sutra-resources. That's bit.ly/Lotus-Sutra-resources.